afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 20s. Here we are to meet 20 brilliant Indians from across the world who will be sharing with you their new definition of success. Here, along with Education News Network presented by Education Today, I'm Nirmala Krishnan, inviting all of you to meet this wonderful person. Just one word is enough to describe him. He's just 20 years old and he has become a commercial pilot. Yes, I'm talking of Atharva Prabhu. This young boy knew what he wanted to achieve and followed his passion. And we are here to meet this young gentleman sharing his journey with all of us today. Welcome, Athar.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a nice introduction. I'm really happy to be a part of the 20s and really thankful to Education News Network, also to my alma mater of Parental Memorial School to find me deserving enough to be on this platform.
Absolutely. When we went around informing people different principles, and I remember speaking to Mrinalini and she was overjoyed. And she said, oh my God, I have so many alumni who are great achievers in different fields. And fortunately for us, we were able to get you as one of our youngest people to be featured on the 20s, Atharva. You are the starting. Yeah, you are the starting point. That is, this is the age group of 20 to 29 and you are at 20. So you just qualified to be in the 20s.
Yes,
right? Okay, great. Wonderful. So it is a huge dream to be a pilot, right? So would you like to share with our viewers what has been your journey? How did you come to know for yourself that you want to fly? And how did you go about achieving your dream?
Yes, ma'am. So I feel that every journey or every career decision that you take in your life, it takes a gradual process since a very young age for you to instill that liking into you. But for me, it was something completely opposite. I remember that in ninth grade, we had an economics lecture in which we were sitting and the teacher just threw a question to the class saying, where do you look at yourself in 20 years? And at that very moment, it was just 1 second and I decided for myself that I want to become a pilot. Now, I have had aviation as my hobby since a very young age, since a very tender age, in fact, since my conscious brain can remember. And whenever my parents used to, and I used to fly somewhere, it used to be this ritual for me to visit the cockpit at least once. And that's where this whole hobby began. And I never really thought of making it my career until that one day in ninth grade in the economics lecture, when I was just sitting there and I just decided that enough of making it a hobby. It's time that I pursue it as a wholehearted career. And I've never looked back since then. And I'm extremely, extremely happy that I took that decision back then.
Okay, great. And what has been your journey from there? In class 9, thanks to that teacher for asking such a question to Athar. And after that, what was your journey in terms of getting to know where to do this course and how to go about it? What was the whole preparation towards becoming a commercial pilot?
So, ma'am, in ninth grade, after I decided that, yes, this is what I want to pursue, initially I decided that I would get a degree, just as a backup degree after post my 12th grade, for which I joined one of the coaching classes in my 11th grade. Now, these 2 years, they were one of the most difficult phases in my life because I just couldn't find myself sitting in the class, paying attention and grasping anything, because at the back of my mind, I always thought that this is not what I want to be doing. And I was really impatient. This is something I will mention later on as well, but I was really impatient to be in the cockpit and start flying. So after my 12th grade, or just before my 12th grade ended, I just had a word with my parents and I just talked to them saying that I can't see myself for 4 years in any other profession or in any other education stream. And I was really fortunate that they could understand the peril I was in and they supported me. So after 12th, I immediately scrapped this whole idea of getting a degree. And then I just started working on my aviation portfolios. I started giving my medicals, my selections, etc., which I'll talk to brief once this interview progresses. But I got through all the processes, and then thereafter I fortunately got selected in one of the flight schools based in Australia. And then I flew to Australia in 2019, and it just took me a year to get my commercial pilot license, which I got on July 6th, 2020.
That's interesting. And congratulations for that. Right? Great. So, for any parent, the traditionally as his class and getting into college would be the right thing to do. So, was it very easy for your parents to accept this kind of a decision? But is there anybody else in your family who's already into aviation? So it was easy for them to connect, or you were the first one? And what was the whole journey of getting your parents to understand? And just want to understand how easy or difficult it is.
So, ma'am, I feel that for any parent, it is a very risky decision to get into a profession that is so less talked about, especially in a country like ours. And as you asked me the question, nobody in my family is a pilot. I'm the first one. So it was a very huge step. My father being an engineer and my mother being a doctor. So these are the top two professions or the top two streams everybody goes for after their 12th grade. And me suddenly wanting to be a pilot was a little bit of a shock for them. But I feel that it is extremely natural to feel so. After thorough research that I did myself, I presented them with a few facts, a few figures about how to become a pilot, what is the job situation, how can I land up a job in this field, or what is the way of going forward, the medicals, etc. And after seeing me talk with such confidence, they thought that, chalo, he knows what he's doing. So it's about time that we, take a back seat now. We have guided him all the way up till here, and I think now he's independent enough to take care of what he wants to do. And then they just let me free, and then they just told me that whatever selections you want to give, whatever you do, whatever you need, just let us know. We'll facilitate that for you, and I'm really thankful to them. And that is the primary reason I'm even here talking to you today.
So thanks to them for giving us a pilot in the 20s.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, fine. And the next question, how difficult is the training, and is having good grades a prerequisite for being a pilot?
Ma'am, I would say that the training, it's a very mixed bag. It's more of a sinusoidal wave, I would say. Now, to become a pilot, you also need to give a few examinations at the beginning of your training, and then you proceed to actually flying aircraft. So if you are just one of those kind of students who is able to grasp knowledge quickly and to remember it for a longer time, then the whole examination phase of your training can be a breeze, it can be easy. Or if you are very good with your hand-eye coordination, then the flying part can be easy. So I feel that everything is dependent on the student, how he is, what are his particular, what can I say, specialties in what he excels. So I would definitely not say that it's a very difficult program. Not at all. It's a very it's a very up and down, like a mountain range kind of a program where you will definitely pass through a few things, but then you might face a little difficulty in the other phase. But it is definitely not impossible.
Thank you so much, Athar, for helping us understand that this does not require, but definitely a good amount of understanding of the vocabulary and terms, and later on the practical part of it. So another thing that comes with this is the height. So what happens if you are scared of heights?
Personally, ma'am, I used to have the ants while being in taller buildings, or just being anywhere, any high buildings or something back in the day. But I feel that once you start flying, once you get into the profession, once you have started making it more of your daily thing, this fear, it vanishes. And that's exactly what happened with me. So I have flown aircrafts literally 500 foot over the ground, but also as high as 8,500 feet in the air. And personally, when you're in there, when you're actually in control, you understand that this fear is because you were not in control before. And now everything you're doing there, everything, any turns you're making, any maneuvers you're making is in your hands, right? So this whole fear takes the backseat then, and it just becomes a very exciting experience more than that.
You mentioned about 8,000 feet, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I remember sitting in our aircraft and they sharing with us that we are at 33,000 feet. So you become a commercial pilot in an aircraft which is much smaller and it just requires one person to handle it. And then how do you move on to become a pilot who can manage a 33,000 feet and a huge aircraft? How does that shift happen?
So, ma'am, usually these big passenger aircrafts that you see, they require a very specific amount of training, which is called a type rating in the world of aviation, where you technically perfect yourself on that particular type of an aircraft. That training usually takes around 3.5 months in duration, and thereafter you are completely familiarized with that particular aircraft, its cockpit, its systems, which can take you up as high as 39,000 feet for the Airbus 320, which is one of the most common aircrafts in India, at least.
Wow. So you mean to say after this training, you have to undergo another training, but the first step is to do this kind of a 1 year training that you have been through.
Yes, ma'am. So firstly, I will have to get my CPL because that is my foundation to become any sort of a pilot if I want to be into this whole commercial field, like an airline pilot or a private, for someone having a private jet, right? So even a helicopter, in fact, in that case, but that would be for the helicopter commercial pilot license. But yes, commercial pilot license is the minimum. It's the benchmark that you need to achieve before you can start transporting passengers or cargo.
Okay, interesting. So another question we have over here is, what are the few qualities that I should make sure I have before making this attempt at flying, apart from what you have shared?
That's actually a very good question, ma'am, because as I mentioned earlier, I was a very impatient kind of a boy back in my school days, and I have paid quite a huge price for the same. Because in the world of aviation, patience is the most important virtue that you must have. Because every day you fly, you might not have the same days. Sometimes the weather might go south, or you might just not have an aircraft available for you to fly. And then this just leads to a frustration, which leads to more mistakes in your training, which I feel is what I personally did. So I would suggest everyone out there that patience is something that you should instill in yourself since a very young age, or at least if you want to become a pilot. Secondly, I would also say that you need to be hardworking. Like I said, that you don't need to be brilliant to become a pilot. It is not something, it's not rocket science at the end of the day. But hard work is extremely important in this field because you, as I mentioned just right now, that you might have hard days, you might have days where nothing's going your way, but you need to at least, give your best, try your best in that particular moment and just make the best out of any situation that arises. Also, another quality I would mention is motivation. Now, this seems to be like a very basic kind of a quality where, yes, fine, I am motivated to become a pilot. But the amount of motivation that actually goes in is something that you cannot understand until you're there. There were multiple times in my training itself where I really thought that, am I capable of becoming a pilot? Am I actually capable of handling these aircrafts or having responsibility of over 180 passengers in the coming few years? But there was this one thing that kept me going. That's what I've mentioned in my posters for the 20s as well, that choose a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I just saw myself waking up at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., at any time during the night, getting to a flight, flying it, because that's what I always wanted to do. And that I would possibly do everything to get there. So I feel staying motivated throughout your training, even in the tough days, even in the hard days, is extremely important. So these are just a few qualities that I think every pilot should instill in themselves.
Beautiful. That's so well said and explained, Atharva. Now, another question that comes up over here is, don't you need graduation? We have always heard that to pursue any kind of career, you need graduation. And you're talking about doing a 1 year course in commercial pilot. So how does it happen? You don't need a graduation to become a commercial pilot?
So I feel aviation in that aspect is a very flexible kind of a field. Now, a commercial pilot license is given to any person who has done his training and is over the age of 18. So now we are looking at the minimum benchmark to be 18 years of age, and most of the airlines, to be honest, usually hire pilots who have a maximum age of around 31 or 32. So we are looking at any age between 18 to 32 is uh, eligible for getting a commercial pilot license in our country at least. So you don't necessarily need a graduation degree. You can be a 12th pass, or you can be just a diploma holder, or you can go ahead and get your graduation done. In fact, you can even work for a few years, gather the funds, and then move ahead with the training.
That brings me to the next question. You spend it funds. We have heard this is a very, very expensive course. So, and we also understand that kids who go to pursue their UG abroad, they spend about minimum 15 to 20 lakhs per annum. So, how much is the course costing to be a commercial pilot compared to 4 years of graduation, undergraduate course that people usually go abroad to do?
Ma'am, as you rightly said that this profession or getting into this profession is definitely not cheap. It is one of the expensive and career options, I would say. But a lot of the states in our country offer scholarships as well for a few candidates, which you'll have to go on to Google to check which for your particular state. So if you were to avail of these scholarships and get into any of the schools, then you could get the whole training done at somewhere in the range of 25 to 30 lakhs. If you were to go online, oh sorry, my bad. If you were to go abroad, and if you wanted to train abroad for in a very comfortable pace and in a very comfortable environment, then this cost can go up to 50 lakhs as well to avail a commercial pilot license. So we are looking at a broad spectrum of around 25 to 50, depending on where you want to undertake your training and whether you are eligible for a scholarship or not as well.
So, getting this license here in India and getting it in Australia. So, what is the difference?
Well, there is absolutely no difference because all the regulation bodies in the world, which is DGCA for us or Civil Aviation Safety Authority, CASA in Australia, are usually monitored by the United Nations body of aviation, which is ICAO, which is International Civil Aviation Organization. Now, ICAO has set a few standards for any person to get a commercial pilot license, and most of the countries in the world follow these standards. So, if you're going to get a license in Australia, you're definitely eligible to fly aircrafts in Australia. But if you come to India, you will just have to do a small course of around a week or two to convert your Australian license into your Indian license. It is definitely not difficult, provided that you have successfully gotten your license somewhere which is an ICAO contracting state. So getting an Indian license is not that difficult. And to be honest, both of these licenses are not different at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Interesting. So we got to understand a lot about this profession, this career as a commercial pilot. We are going to the next level of this, or the next part of this interaction, Athar, where I'll be asking you questions which we have received from students across India. So, are you ready for that?
Yes, ma'am, already.
Okay, great. Yeah. Is it worth getting into this field considering how badly the travel industry is hit at the moment?
That's a very good question, and that's a very concerning question as well to all the aspirant pilots out there. Now, it is a harsh reality that because of the pandemic, a lot of the travel industry has been hit very badly, including airlines as well. And it is not just pertinent to our country, it's all over the world. So, for any person who is willing to become a pilot or who's an aspirant pilot right now, what my suggestion would be is to pause your training for a while. It is not necessary to get out of this field altogether because, as every calamity has shown us, that everything comes with an expiry date. This pandemic will be over soon as well, and we are looking to get back into this golden era of flying once again, as it was pre-pandemic. So I feel that for now, it is good to just pause your training. If you are a degree holder, then it is good to get some secondary job, or if you are just a 12th pass, then it would be beneficial for you to get a graduation degree. because right now, considering the airlines' financial conditions and the job markets all over the world, getting a job is not the easiest thing to do today if you are a commercial pilot license holder. So my suggestion to anyone would be, as I mentioned earlier, is to pause your training, gather the funds if possible, work or educate yourself a little more in some other fields, and then once this whole pandemic or whole COVID-19 crisis dies down a bit, get into this field, because this field is not going anywhere. The opportunities are not going anywhere. So you don't have to worry about, is it the right time? Will it be the right time later on? Because it's definitely not the right time now. This is what I can tell you. And anything, we have faced a lot of crises in the world of aviation, may it be the 2008 crisis or post 9/11 problems as well. But aviation has always rebounded. It has always rebounded time and again, and history will repeat itself once again. So you don't need to worry. Just pause it for a while.
Thank you so much. That makes so much sense. Just pause. We all have paused our life now during this pandemic for a moment. We've just paused it and we're waiting for everything to get back to normal. And that's very, very promising for Atharva too. Great. Going to the next question. This kid is from Kolkata, and this kid has asked, do you need to be as fit medically as the Air Force pilot to become a commercial pilot? What is the fitness level difference between the two?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have to be as fit as the Air Force to become a commercial pilot. Now, most of the medicals that are done for commercial pilots are done at an Air Force center itself. So you can expect a little level of strictness or Air Force strictness, but it is not as difficult as the Air Force. Talking about vision, let's say, if your vision is corrected by spectacles and it can be corrected to 6x6, you are eligible to become a pilot. Having a flat foot is not a problem when you want to become a commercial pilot. A few of the things that the Air Force is really strict about is something that commercial pilot license or getting a commercial pilot license is it can be overlooked as well, just like I mentioned at the moment. So I would say, if I were to put it on a statistical scale, I would say that the commercial pilot license medicals are somewhere in the 50 to 60% difficulty range compared to the Air Force's 100%.
Okay, interesting. That's nice. Okay, great. Going to the next question. This comes from a student in Pune, your city. Okay. Please share the names of institutes for commercial pilot training in India and a few abroad.
Oh, well, that's a pretty good question. So there are multiple schools. I've personally come across a lot of schools during my whole journey of since 2017. And in India, I can definitely name a few like IGRUA, which is the Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Udan Academy. That's based in Rai Bareilly. It's a government training institute. And as far as I know, it's a really good flying school with good fleet, good aircrafts as well. Then we also have Chimes in MP, which is also a very good school considering its fleet. Then there is Asia Pacific Flight Training in Hyderabad, which is also a very good school considering its location and its fleet. When I move to talking about flying schools abroad, that's a very vast spectrum, I'd say. There are a lot of schools abroad, a lot of countries that you can train yourself in. I won't name every school possible, but I can definitely recommend countries to get your training done in. Now, there's Canada, there's the United States, there's Australia, and there's New Zealand. Just a few problems with the first two, that is Canada and the US, is that the weather in Canada during winters can be a little harsher in terms of the snow, etc., which can keep your flying a little slower than expected. And the US, as I mentioned earlier, is whose regulatory body is the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, is not a part of ICAO, which is the UN regulatory body. So sometimes the license conversion can be a little bit of a hassle. Also, the radio licenses that you need to get to become a pilot are also not eligible. Like, you are not eligible to convert those radio licenses from the American license to the Indian license. So that can be a little bit of a problem, but need not to say that a lot of my friends have been training in the US, have been training in Canada, and they are facing no problems at all. I have personally flown in Australia, and I can definitely vouch for Australia because it's one of the best places to fly in the world. Though the weather can go bad a little during the summers or in the winters during the front seasons, but overall it's a very good place to train yourself to become a pilot. And then New Zealand, I feel it's also a very suitable place. as it's very close to Australia, so the weather systems are somewhat similar, and the schools there are as well very nice as far as I have heard. So US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, for like any of these schools, any of the reputed schools in these countries would be a good choice. And for India, as I mentioned before, IGROA, Chimes, and APFT being one, the three of the few.
That's a lot of information that Atharva has shared with us today, and we've received so many questions. We cannot, ask Atharva all those, but you can definitely reach him. Atharva, would you like to share your Instagram ID where they can post your questions?
Yes. So my Instagram ID is @alpha papa 777. It is ALPHA PAPA 777. That would be my Instagram, and you can definitely check out Dr. Nirmala ma'am's Instagram as well at link13 to get any of my contact information and contact me anytime. I'm happy to help you all.
So we are going to have more pilots. Yes, or at least those who aspire or those who want to know more about this profession, because it's not necessary that I should fly, but I can definitely try to learn and understand more about this lovely profession. So now we can go ahead with the third part of this conversation. Please go ahead, and I'm ready for your question.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, my question to you is that living around aviation and aircrafts almost for a significant portion of your life, your father himself being a reputed Navy pilot, what is the most fascinating thing to you about the world of aviation and aircrafts?
Okay, Atharva. That's a very, very different question. Just to correct you that my father was the flight signaler. He was not the pilot, he was the flight signaler, and he used to fly IL-38 and Tu-142, the huge, large aircrafts of our country.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you've seen that. We have seen him go in IL-38, and later on, he was among the first batch which went to Russia and stayed there for a year and commissioned it for our country. And we had the privilege that particular day, I cannot forget in my life, when the aircrafts landed. We had the then minister, Mr. K.C. Pant. He was there to receive the whole team, which landed with the first lot of Tu-142 for our country. And when you do that for your country, it's a different feeling. And all of us, we were just little kids around those days. But yes, coming to your question, almost 15 years of my life, I have lived just adjacent to naval air station in Goa. And later on, Tu-142 was shifted to Arkonam in Chennai, the longest runway that we have right now to accommodate this huge aircraft. So being part of these two naval air stations in our country and growing up with him, I can definitely share that it has brought a lot of, like you said, patience and sense of responsibility in our lives, because seeing him and seeing other people in aviation industry, I can share with you that he has given us all three that you get to see as part of the 20s. He has given us grit, hard work, and smart thinking, because he has taught us a lot of discipline through, I was sharing, he would share the flight timings as 13:06 and 14:07. That's how we have heard time, landing and takeoff. So we've been very, very careful about discipline in terms of time management. And a very, very important lesson in life he has taught about courage. That is the grit that we are talking about. Is you may lose both your hands, legs, and everything in your life, your money, your whatever you feel you have achieved in society. But if you're still alive, you can still make it in your life. You can still come up and you can still, make your presence and prove yourself to the world. This is something that my father has taught us, my brother and me, and I owe a lot of this attitude, which has taken me so far in life and kept us grounded and humbled, come what may in our life. So definitely, I'm sure people who are going to be associated with you also are definitely feel that way, because growing up in aviation makes a lot of difference in the way you conduct yourself. Uh, I would call them as thorough gentlemen.
Thank you so much for answering my question, ma'am. It really sent, chills down my spine to listen to the whole experiences. And thank you again.
The most chilling one I have shared on many platforms is my dad often saying, okay, on a lighter side, just want to share with you that every time my mother would hear, because we were very close to the runway, our house was there, so my mother, she would be sitting with her friends and suddenly she will get up and she'll say, I'll have to go and cook. And why? Because she has heard the aircraft sound and she knows that is going to land. So that is how my mother used to enter the kitchen to cook. So she knows. Yeah, that's on a lighter side, but on on a serious note, and but something very important that we have also learned in our life is my dad sharing with us that yes, I'm going to take off, but I don't know if I'll join you all for lunch or dinner after the flight, because that part of their life is something that I think all of you accept as realities and then take up this kind of a job to fly the aircraft. So that I have shared it on many platforms because that brings a lot of reality check to us. Whatever we may achieve in life, it keeps us grounded that we don't know whether we are going to be there the next moment or not. So that was answering your question. I hope that was clear.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Athar. Now we come to the most exciting part, the rapid fire. Okay, Athar. So here we go. The rapid fire. What is the maximum height you reached in your solo flight?
Solo flight, ma'am, 6,500 feet.
Lovely, great. And if not flying as commercial pilot, what other job you would have opted for?
Ma'am, I'm really inclined towards the civil services. There was a point in my life when I had decided to become a pilot, where I thought that during the time when I was really considering if I can still be a pilot, considering the down times of my career path, I really thought that I could just get a graduation degree and then I could get into give one of the UPSC or MPSC examinations and get into the civil services, because I really love general knowledge, gaining knowledge through such kind of means. So yeah, I think that would have been my next course of action.
Great. Okay, thank you. The next one. Apart from being an expensive course, what stops a child from pursuing a career to be a commercial pilot?
I would say, fortunately, my parents are really supportive, but this whole profession is very new in the market even today. And any parent taking the decision to make their children a pilot is a huge one. And that's this whole idea, the breaking these barriers that, engineering and medical chhodke, we can get into this field, might be one of the reasons that we don't see many pilots today.
Okay, great. So that one moment when you were up in the air and you still remember that moment?
My first solo. So I think every pilot that you come across will tell you the same story about their own solos. The first solo is when we fly the aircraft alone for the first time. So the initial part of our training is with an instructor sitting right next to us teaching the basics. But then there comes a point where the instructor just gets out of the cockpit, tells you that go fly and get back, in one piece. And that takeoff, that solo takeoff and that solo landing is one of the most exciting phases or one of the most exciting things you'll ever experience in your life, I feel.
One incident where you felt that you could have done better and something went wrong when you were flying?
It's all the checks, to be honest. every single check I have given, I always thought that I could do better, because there's obviously that subtle stress that's at the back of your mind, that it's a check and that you have to be your best. And then because of this whole stress, you tend to miss a few things that you should have done, which you would have rather done in your solos. But when an instructor of such high degree is sitting next to you, is when you tend to miss these things. So I feel that on every checks, especially during my CPL as well, my commercial pilot license check as well, I could have been a little better. I could have been a little more perfect, but I blame that on the stress, to be honest. I'm handling the stress. I feel that meditation is one of the most important things. Now, this is something I learned quite recently towards the end of my training, is that meditation does help. And especially in such a field where everything is happening so quick, your aircraft is traveling literally 250 kilometers an hour in the air. And you can't just be like, okay, I'll just park the aircraft to the side, get out, and just take a break. And then I'll sit back in the cockpit and then I'll keep going. You can't do that. So I feel that if you condition yourself on the ground itself of all the possibilities that you're going to experience up there, the weather, being extremely prepared, being prepared with regards to weather, with regards to traffic that's going to be in the air. Can you expect some random clearances from the air traffic controller? If you're ready beforehand, then the stress can be completely alleviated, right? Followed with, just 15 minutes of deep breaths, meditation can totally make the stress go poof, I feel. One liner, in regards to this profession, I'd say that a mile of a highway will take you a mile, but a mile of a runway will take you anywhere. Yes. Yeah. It will be a mile of a highway will take you just a mile, but a mile of a runway will take you anywhere in the world. Yes. So this is something that I have been reading since I got into this profession, this particular quote. So it's like if you're driving on the road, if you just travel a mile, the distance you have gained is a mile. But just a mile of a runway strip is all it takes for the aircraft to get up in the air. And thereafter, the sky is basically yours. So, just 1 mile of a runway can probably take you anywhere in the world. With regards to, there are no traffic rules, or there is, none of that kind of problems that you will face on the road. So it's more of a motivational phase as well, and it's more of this subtle hint at all the ground or all the people on the ground as well.
Beautiful. You explained this so beautifully, and at such a young age as 20, so much of knowledge, so much of understanding. I'm sure your parents are very, very, very proud of you. Your school is proud of you. And I feel so happy that I have you in the 20s and feel so proud of you, Atharva. Thank you so much for being on this show. I feel delighted meeting such a wonderful gentleman today. I'm sure the viewers also feel the same. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having me over. I would also like to thank the Education News Network again for providing me such a wonderful platform to share my journey. And again, I'm immensely grateful to Vikram Bharat Memorial School for always making me think out of the box, trying to be the better me or the best me possible. And I'm just honored to be on the 20's.
Thank you so much. So, viewers, we have met this young gentleman who is so clear about his thought process, and his head is definitely on his shoulders. Thank you so much for being with us. And I'm sure very soon we will be having your children as part of the 20's. As me, Dr. Nirmala Krishnan, signs off for today on Education News Network, presented by Education Today.